Hello everyone! Do you want to know if a servant is good enough to spend your hard-earned sync quartz on? Great, you're in the right place, let me give you the information for that. Welcome to the FGO Gacha Guide, and today our topic servant is Artemis's lover, Superman Orion. We will be covering all of the points that you can see on screen here, but before we go into these, fun fact with Orion. He's known in Greek myths as the first hunter, and due to his unparalleled skill with a bow, the Greek gods recognized him, and upon his death sent him to the stars, creating the constellation of Orion. So, let's jump into my personal opinion on whether he's good or not. I think Super Orion is quite good. He's super good. He's one of the strongest units in the game when it comes to dealing critical damage. He has very high solo potential and is extremely good at challenge quests. His big drawback is just a lack of AoE and the fact that his MP is a self-buff, so killing multiple enemies isn't easy for him. But if you don't bring him to try and do a job he's not good at, he will absolutely excel in taking down single-target enemies. Now, looking into his stats, he is a 5-star archer, meaning he is super effective against sabers and weak against lancers. At level 90, he has 12,557 attack, which is very high for a 5-star servant, almost top 10. His HP at level 90 is 13,494, which is a little below average for a 5-star servant. Moving on to his hidden stats, we can see that his MP gain per hit is 0.96%, which is very high, extremely good. As for his cards, his quick card has 3 hits, his arts card has 3 hits, and his buster card has 1 hit, and his extra card has 5 hits. These are some pretty low hit counts overall, especially nowadays. So, despite having that very high MP charge on hit, having only 1 arts card and having only 3 hits on it does mean he's not getting as big a return as you might want him to. His star absorption, aka how easy it is to get stars onto his cards over other servants, is 153, a nice above average stat. His star creation is 8%, which is a little below average. All in all, his stats do come out to be a bit above average. The biggest and most outstanding one being that very high NP charge on hit. Now, looking specifically at the deck and the NP that he has, his deck contains 1 arts card, 1 quick card, and 3 buster cards, a very buster-focused deck. His noble phantasm, Artemis Hagnos, the moon goddess's innocent affections, is a self-buffing MP. It'll give invincibility ignoring for 3 turns, increase his attack by 30 to 50% for 3 turns, gives him self-debuff immunity for 3 turns, gives him critical star regen at 10 per turn for 3 turns, and finally increases his critical damage by 100 to 200% based on your overcharge for 3 turns. These are some good buffs. Super Orion's NP sets him up to do some serious damage with his cards, especially hitting any sort of critical. And all of these buffs stack if you use his NP again before the buffs run out. He can be doing NP level damage with each card just via crits. It really helps to solidify Orion being best used as a solo servant so you can guarantee his cards by being able to loop through his NP a couple times and bust your opponent's face in with a critical or 2. Next up we have his passives. He has 3 passives. Our first one is Independent Action EX, further increasing his critical damage by 12%. Next, we have Blessing of the Sea God, B, which increases his damage by 175 and reduces his damage by 175. And finally, Curse of Scorpio, D, which gives him toxic status, makes him take more damage from poison. Overall, not that exciting. Independent action is fantastic. The other 2, not so great. The increased damage and reduced damage is a flat 175, and when enemies are hitting upwards of 8 to 9k, 175 is a drop in the bucket. It's basically nothing, especially when enemies have 100,000 to 1,000,000 health on any break bar. Basically does nothing. As for Curse of the Scorpio, I will point out this is a neat lore thing. For those that don't know any lore, Orion was said to have died via a scorpion, which was eventually sent into the stars to become the constellation of Scorpio. Neato. So, moving on to his skills, first off, we have Stout Arm of Brutality. This increases buster performance by 30 to 50% for 1 turn, and increases damage against wild beasts or demonic enemies by 30 to 50% for 1 turn. Not the most exciting skill, it's a decent one-turn buff and helps him beat the face in of wild beasts or demonic enemies, mostly. Moving on to his second skill, we've got Pressure of the Moon Goddess. This gives him a Guts status that'll activate once, lasting 3 turns, and will revive him with 1,000 to 3,000 HP if he happens to fall in battle. It will also increase his attack for 3 turns by 10 to 20%, and gain him 10 to 20 critical stars for that turn. This is a slightly better skill in my opinion. It is especially good at helping him facilitate soloing challenge fights, mostly because of the fact that it gives him that guts, which gives him an extra turn to hit the opponent if he happens to be taken down in battle. It also gives him stars for the turn to activate to further allow him to reach that critical hit and pull out that big damage. And finally, we've got his third skill, Bowman of the 3 Stars. This increases critical star absorption by 300 to 500% for 3 turns, and gives him an on-attack buff that lasts for 3 hits for 3 turns, which will increase his critical damage that turn by 50 to 100% when attacking with Buster cards. And this will activate before dealing the damage. Basically, it means his Buster is going to crit a lot harder. This skill is absolutely phenomenal. When combined with Orion's NP, it can lead to insane damage coming out of a triple Buster card turn. That is upwards of, 600% bonus critical damage? On the triple Buster, that is crazy high, and that's all from his own buffs. As you can see by the skills in MP, Orion is built to punch hard. Every single skill and even the MP is all about producing stars, buffing himself, and critting the enemy into a fine dust of powder. Now this does mean that for fights with multiple enemies, Orion might take longer to chew through them, but if you send him into a 1v1 challenge fight, which you should, he will, in most cases, just bash his way to victory with little to no issue. Even against Lancers, I can attest that Orion hits so hard that the class disadvantage doesn't matter that much. So, what materials do we need to level up these skills? I got bad news, everybody. With a new Lost Belt, new place to go to, that means new materials, everyone. Now, Orion starts off easy with some old stuff. We require 15 octuplet crystals, 44 proofs of heroes, 24 arrowheads, and finally, 10 comet shards per skill. So, to max all 3 skills, it is 45 octuplet crystals, 132 proofs of heroes, 72 arrowheads, and 30 comet shards. So not only is the cost of proofs of heroes very high, but the comet shards are a brand new material. They're also gold rarity, so getting 30 of them will not be easy, and it is going to take some time. That being said, if you're going to be using Superman Orion, you're going to want to max all of his skills, so get farming, everybody. So, here's what we're all waiting for. How does Superman Orion stack up against his competition? As a 5-star archer, he has some stiff competition. Overall, archers are generally the best class out there, with very few archers that aren't good. His main competition comes down to Gilgamesh, Artemis, his waifu, Nikola Tesla, Arjuna, Swimsuit Artoria, Ishtar, James Moriarty, Napoleon, and finally, Swimsuit Jeanne d'Arc. Every single one of these servants is quite good, except maybe Moriarty. He's a little weak. When it comes to doing single-target challenge fights and dishing out consistent damage, I think Super Orion is honestly number 1. His closest competition is Swimsuit Artoria. Swimsuit Artoria does require good supports. Superman Orion is self-sufficient, which is why I put him just barely above her. Even if he technically doesn't have a damage-dealing NP, he does have all the tools to deal extremely high damage via criticals, which allows him to surpass most other servants' damage outputs, because while an MP is great for a single turn, if you're not looping it, Orion has multiple turns of super high card damage no matter what. Again, Archer Swimsuit Artoria is his only real competition into these single-target fights. And unless you have really good supports to go with her, Orion just outclasses her due to being self-sufficient and being able to just send in by himself. So, technically, he's a lot more free-to-play friendly. We can say that. Now, if you do roll for Super Orion, what skills should you prioritize in leveling? I think it looks like this. You want to start with his third skill, Bowman of the 3 Stars. It's the most important, it scales really well, and most importantly, it gives you huge critical damage for that single turn. Next, I would level up his second skill. This gives him a consistent damage buff for 3 turns. It provides stars, it gives him a nice guts, and lowering the cooldown is good so that you can try and get those buffs back as often as possible. And finally, his first skill, it is just a single turn buff. It's the least important to level due to it being just a single turn buff. And while the scaling is good, it's just a single turn buff. Did I mention how much I hate single turn buffs? Now, let's move on to craft essences for this man. He's a Buster-focused critical damage-dealing monster, so let's focus on Buster Up and critical damage up. First off, we have Victor of the Moon. This CE increases Buster performance by 10%, or 15% if it's max limit broken, and increases critical damage by 15%, or 25% at max limit break. This CE is always available in the Gacha. You're likely to get one eventually if you don't have one now. Next up, for those older players, we have Joint Recital from the 2016 Nerofest. This increases Buster and critical damage by 20% at max limit break if you've still got one lying around. And finally, I would very much suggest Beautiful Dreamer, another event CE that gives 10% Buster performance up, 10% MP generation up, and starts the battle with 50% MP charge to get that first MP off easier. You can also take a max limit broken Kaleidoscope or Imaginary Element to try and start off with an early NP and get his NP buffs going instantly. Now, let's talk about what servants to group Super Orion with. Like I said before, quick reminder, he is very self-sufficient, works great just by himself, but if you do wish to field a team with him, oh, look, it's Waver. He's here again. What a surprise. Waver has up to 50% MP charge, attack up, critical damage up. It's a no-brainer to put him with just about anyone. Merlin is our big go-to Buster support, bringing NP charge, star generation on his MP, healing, a huge Buster up, and crit up to work with. It's everything Orion could possibly hope for. So Merlin is our premier #1 support to go with him. Next up, we have Nero Bride. She is a fantastic support because of her MP generation buff. With that MP generation buff on, Super Orion can get 100% MP with just a single arts card crit. Or even an NP Buster Arts extra combo can fill him to maybe 100%, at least close to it. And we could also bring Artemis, because she is his waifu and loves her darling and wants to be with him. And who doesn't want to see true love? Oh, and uh-oh. She's not here, but let me summon her. Heya heya Cthulhu Fata. Oh, there she is. Summer BB. Summer BB is one of the best servants that you can bring with Super Orion because she can lock your cards for 3 turns and allow him to use just his cards for that period. Very important to mention her. It's one of the best facilities that she can bring, is just making sure that the big damage dealer can do big damage. So a quick too long didn't watch here. Superman Orion is really good. He's a great servant to roll for. He's got insane damage output, and he's quite self-sufficient. He may not be able to AoE farm, but that's not his job anyway. If you need a man that can murder a single target opponent efficiently, he is the right man for the job. But if you need more reason to pull for him, he's a huge muscular goofball, he's a big bro, and I'm honestly scared Artemis will kill you if you don't roll for him, so you might want to save your own bacon there. Let me know your opinions on Superman Orion. If you enjoyed the video, follow me on Twitch, join the Discord and all that. Thank you for watching, everybody. Good luck on your rolls, and I'll see you next time.